This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
GPS, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. How are you?
Wonderful. It was fantastic seeing you, albeit for too little yesterday, and being back and having a spectacular week, and just things are great.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to have several people back in the building who haven't been recently.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like a homecoming.
Yeah,
so.
It really is. It's been very nice. So yes, I enjoyed seeing you yesterday as well, albeit in an alley for 75 seconds.
Exactly. But albeit in the alley where I just was. I will tell you, when I drove up today, Gary, let's see if I've got the picture handy that I can show you. You might want to just show it.
Yeah,
here.
Text it to me. I can throw it on screen.
Okay, there you go. That was this morning right in front.
Oh, that's spectacular. I'm going to put it up here in about 10 seconds for those who are watching on YouTube, and youtube.com/reasonable doubt podcast is where you can go if you want to see the picture of hopefully an alive person, but with the blanket over it, you couldn't tell, right outside of our building. That is where I walk into work every day. So that's just absolutely spectacular for a Saturday.
Yep. All of the discussions about downtown, the guy I really feel sorry for. I know it's horrible to say you feel sorry for a billionaire, but I do feel sorry for this guy. The owner of Korean Airlines, who built this spectacular building across the street and spent, supposedly at least, spent $1 billion of his own money building this state-of-the-art, environmentally conscious, beautiful building in kind of a plaza across the street that is the Intercontinental. Right?
It's a sight to see. I mean, it's easy to take for granted because it is across the street and we walk by it every single day, but it's a marvel. And I recognize that every time I'm walking to and from work and I see tourists taking pictures of it. It really is. It's easy to take for granted, but it is a spectacular building.
Yeah. I mean, just design wise.
Yeah.
As my brother Mike, who's an architect, would say, the way it meets the sky. He loves to say that.
Sure.
But the way it meets the sky, I get it. I mean, it's just an architecturally significant building and laid out well, and everything is wonderful. And that guy spent all that money. And I walked by. The reason I said is when I walked by to get a cup of coffee, I noticed that it was 2017. And I remember thinking 2017, 2018 was kind of the high water mark of downtown LA. And fast forward 10 years later to where we are right now, as I was walking around, by the way, through Fentanyl Alley and bodies everywhere. And as you say, you never know if they're dead or alive, and driving past the homeless encampment as we're cheering the billions of dollars that we've spent on the homeless. And sorry to chant or to channel my inner Corolla, but the idea that this is downtown LA. We now, in a week, Gary, Kohl's is closing, which is one of the iconic, the pantry was bad enough, and now Kohl's and
let's not forget Macy's. This is the first time in 150 years, I believe, that there's been no department store in downtown Los Angeles.
It's okay, enough. We tried this. It didn't work. Enough. We're LA. It's the greatest. The LA is one of, if not top three, by anybody. You can have an argument. LA has been a top 10 city in the world, not just in California, in the world. How we let it get to this point is just astonishing to me.
It really is. And you think about California and you think about the state government, and there has been swings in who people have voted for. Los Angeles doesn't seem to enjoy those kinds of swings, even with the just disastrous results that we've seen. And it's vexing. I mean, I don't know if I even told you, but about 4 or 5 weeks ago, you were doing a TV hit in Fentanyl Alley, and I said goodbye to you and told you about some stuff I had coming up in my life, and you were, I believe, headed back to New York. And I tried to walk back around the building, and I stepped in something disgusting. And it's like, why is that around the corner on Fig and 7th? I mean, it's just like on the sidewalk. Like, what is going on that kind of stuff is allowed and just permitted? It's vexing. And the fact that, as you say, a top 10 city in the world, and I would argue maybe even a top 5 city in the world, has been allowed to devolve into that in the center of its financial hub downtown is just demoralizing.
Yeah, well, it's not going to last for long. I honestly think that there has been a shift in the feelings about this. I know that it has clearly downtown. I know it is to some degree on the west side and in the valley as well. So
I sure hope so. I mean, I saw an announcement from the mayor's office this week that she was promoting and lauding her second consecutive year of decline in homelessness. And I chuckled at that. God bless if the numbers actually bear that out. But certainly open eyes don't necessarily agree.
I was going to say, you can believe the pronouncements out of the mayor's office.
I drive to work every day, so it's really hard for me because, I don't drive with my eyes closed. So that's tough for me to believe. Second year in a row. I mean, I've only been working downtown for about 2.5 years. So to argue the numbers have been going down during that whole time period. Okay.
My God. And it's just, well, do I even want to go down this path? I was going to talk Epstein or something else, and climbing over bodies got me different. But I will let's give some credit to where credit is due. What do we call the purple guys around here that we subsidize to do the things that you would hope the city would normally do?
Yeah, downtown LA safety officers, maybe. I can't remember what it says on their shirt, but they're basically, unarmed cops, but they're paid, rule enforcers, I guess is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
Or they're trying. I mean, they're certainly not having a ton of success from what I've seen, but they've got their bikes, they've got their walkie-talkies and their notepads, and they're doing their best to try to keep people in line.
Yeah.
But it's tough when every building downtown has a speaker system and someone monitoring a bank of cameras so that when somebody, posts up on the side of the building and starts trying to do something that they maybe shouldn't, they start screaming at them. You sit in one of the offices by the window over at our building and you can hear quite a few loudspeakers admonishing people for trying to, use your imagination, but do things they don't want done on the side of their building.
It's really a dystopian. I mean, when you think about it, 20 years ago, if you had said to somebody, I'm going to flash forward 20 years from now, and you're going to just see people shooting up in the alley, asleep, maybe dead, and you're going to be stepping over defecation and things of that nature. And at the same time, there's going to be loudspeakers, disembodied voices screaming down at the alley. And then you've got poor women running down Figueroa getting chased by crazed 5150 schizophrenics. And you'd say, no, that could never, not in America. How could that happen here?
No, in one of the great cities of the world. I mean, when I was a child, my father worked in downtown LA, and I was, as an 8 or 9 year old, encouraged to come up and sell wrapping paper or whatever my Indian guides group was hawking. And I would come up and I would marvel at the beautiful buildings and the, well-dressed businessmen. And there was no concern for my safety. I had my son come to Engine a few weeks ago for Take Your Kid to Work Day. And I went down and purchased a parking spot right in front from the valet. And, I basically had a cadre of armed guards waiting for him when they pulled up so that they could make the 7 feet from the car to the building's door. It's disappointing. It's really kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I know. But I'm telling you, I think we're at an inflection point.
I do too. I really do. I get the feeling that, the people who are actually living and dealing with this are done. They're fed up.
I get the feeling too. I mean, they've reached a point where I've never seen this kind of, okay, enough. To some degree, I think the catalyst was another crisis, which was the wildfires. I think that people have now just seen the sheer incompetence of the government and the way that the government currently is run. And when I say government, I'm talking about the people you have to deal with, whether it's permits and things of that nature. And I think that now they realize, wow, this is as dysfunctional a group as maybe I've ever seen, and they cannot deal with. My brother Matt was a specialist on the floor of the stock exchange, and up in the 80s. And I remember whatever they called it, Black Monday or whatever. And it was when everybody got wiped out. And that was one of the reasons, I think indirectly, that Matt went into the law. And he used to have an expression that a rising stock market kind of covers up all mistakes. And I think to some degree, LA, because of just what a dynamic, fantastic place LA is, whether it's the climate, whether it's at the time when you had kind of a buoyant industries, various industries, aerospace here, you had Hollywood here, you have just tremendous service sector and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of economic engine would cover up the kind of ineptitude that was running the city. A rising market will cover up a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
Boy, when the tide recedes, it really leaves a lot of transparency as to what is happening.
Yeah, it does. And, a lot of those industries that you mentioned have faced a lot of trouble in recent years. Hollywood, I know the state just passed a $750 million incentive for Hollywood productions to return. But that was in wild reaction to places like Atlanta and the UK offering even better incentives. And it remains to be seen whether or not those incentives are even going to work. And, a lot of the industry that is really what built the town is just, no longer here. And there's not a lot of incentive from these big companies to come back. And you mentioned, aerospace, and some of that's still here, but a lot of that's exiting as well. And I just think that with all of the downfalls of businesses like that and the standard of living that people have to deal with, I don't like letting people walk around downtown who we work with. If I hear someone's going, to walk to their car alone, I'll go with them, because it's not a situation that's really tenable.
Well, I'm heartened by a couple of things. Not only the attitude of people who are down here, but a great selection is Jim, who's the now head of LAPD. When he was the sheriff, I will tell you, and I've always, just because of my day job, kind of being kind of holding accountable police misconduct, you would not expect me to be singing any sheriff's praises. But Lee Baca before him, who I always thought Lee was, until that unfortunate conviction, which I don't think ever should have happened. And then Jim after that. And I thought Jim was one of the best sheriffs we've had. And then he lost. And I think he, as head of LAPD, I think we played it on a prior episode, but I saw him basically schooling one of the city council members. And it was, I thought, a brilliant kind of the epitome of the Jim that I know, who's just common sense kind of a guy. And that's who you want as a head of your law enforcement. You don't want somebody too crazy or too crazy either direction. You want somebody who understands that you're there to serve the community, and the community is not just people who are kind of antithetical to moving ahead.
Yeah, Jim McDonnell, who I believe previously worked in Boston, and he's I've found him to be incredibly measured, and I thought that some of the comments that he made during the recent unrest surrounding the immigration raids, encouraging people to, feel free to protest peacefully, but not refrain from interacting with his officers in ways that were violent or harmful to the city.
You have the clip. I love that clip of him in front of the city council and setting that up. Mind you, there were people who were talking about the immigration raids have had a horrible effect on the hospitality industry. I can tell you that, and on various communities. I mean, the trial I was just in, one of the jurors was so terrified by the immigration raids that she called in and said, "I'm not coming to court." And we had to replace her because she was terrified of leaving her house. Then you'd say, well, why would she be terrified if she's a citizen and she's on a jury? Because the perception in the community is that it's indiscriminate. I get that. I understand that, and I don't minimize it. It is a real, palpable fear. I know people who have been picked up both legitimately, illegitimately, and I've talked with immigration lawyers about what is happening, and I don't minimize that for a second. But the Jim has had, I think, a pretty good handle on how you navigate that, especially in LA County, where that can cripple, the immigration rates can cripple the economy here.
Yeah, I agree. And I've certainly I have people in my life who have been similarly concerned by that, and I think very legitimately. But I think Jim has done a good job of finding the right way to toe that line. I'm having trouble finding the clip. We've started writing about Jim quite a bit in my new job, so I have too many files on my computer that are associated with him. So I'm still looking, but I'm not exactly optimistic that I'm going to find it while we're still recording here.
No, it's okay. It's okay. What is, I'm going to ask you a curious question. What is the story that that you would say has had the most traction in your day job this past week?
This past week?
You're now kind of becoming the aficionado or curator of news. So I'm very curious. I always like to ask you that since you've got your finger on the pulse.
Sure. Certainly, in the very recent past, the tragedy with the sheriff's department at their training facility a few miles east of downtown Los Angeles comes to mind. But I would say the one that that really sticks out, that probably didn't get as much traction, but seems to me to be the bigger story, was a bill that was uncovered by our excellent investigative reporter, Michelle McPhee, where the state of California introduced a bill that was going to allow the state to buy land that had been fallen victim to the wildfires and then use it to build low-income housing. And Michelle wrote a very down-the-middle story about that, not really even putting any opinion into it, just sort of stating that this was the case. And I have never seen so many retraction requests in my life from state senators, everyone started forcing retraction requests, and we replied to all of them and said, this is the bill. We copy and pasted from the bill. What are you talking about? And it eventually led to the state senator who had introduced it, pausing the bill so that he was no longer putting it forward, because quite frankly, in my estimation, he got caught and he was not expecting to get ink on this. And as soon as he did, he said, yeah, okay, the citizens who this is going to affect are not happy, and therefore I'm going to go ahead and push pause.
Wow. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
Do you have language from it, or am I now doing what I always do to you and inviting furtive eyes?
No, you are inviting furtive eyes, but I can also find the language here. It's just give me 1 second. But yeah, it was a wild story. Let's see here. See how well I can do this while we keep going. But yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay. Here's the story. Yeah, Michelle wrote one of the most down the middle pieces I think I've ever seen, to the point that I called her after I read it and said, wow, you really took it easy here. And she said, yeah. And then it came through the bill, which was Senate Bill 459, and it was referred to as the Resilient Rebuilding Authorities. And the language here
really was 459, same as the penal code number for a residential burglary. How ironic is that?
That is ironic. Let's see. I'm trying to find the language from the bill itself. Per the legislation, quote, the infrastructure financing plan requires that at least 40% of the total funds received by the district pursuant to this section be used for the acquisition, construction, or rehabilitation of housing, including the cost of pre-development and land acquisition for households with income below 60% of area median income or for rent or purchase. So it was something that, in my estimation, the legislature was trying to slip through, and they did not go to the community with it. And as soon as we started putting it out there, it got a lot of coverage, and everyone basically was cribbing our story, and the community was up in arms. And after us pushing back on a lot of different requests about it, the senator eventually got in touch with us and acquiesced and just said, I'm pushing pause. And that was the cover story on several LA news sites for the next 2 or 3 days. Wow.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Gary. This was not what I expected today, but a fascinating conversation.
Me either. And yes, it was a fascinating conversation. Good to talk to you, Mark. And thank you very much. Good luck. Don't step on any bodies, dead or alive, on the way out of there today. And thank you for making some time for us this weekend.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.